hot coffee scalded my face as my own sister hurled the mug at me for refusing to hand over my startup company. Steam rising from my burned skin. I stumbled backward as my business partners and investors watched in horror from across the conference room. My family thought they could intimidate me into submission during what was supposed to be my biggest professional moment. Instead, I walked away with second-degree burns and a plan for retribution. 2 weeks later, I returned with foreclosure papers and watched their arrogant expressions crumble as they realized what I'd accomplished. But before I dive into this betrayal, I'd love to know where you're joining me from today. Drop your location in the comments below. Hit that like button if you've ever had to fight back against entitled family members, and subscribe to our community of survivors who refuse to be victims. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end to see how this incredible story unfolds. I'm Rachel Thompson, a 32-year-old tech entrepreneur with a life I built from absolutely nothing. My company, Innovate Flow Solutions, isn't just a business, it's worth $2.3 million and represents every sleepless night, every rejected pitch, and every sacrifice I made while my family dismissed my dreams. The chrome and glass office space in downtown Seattle, that represents the 4 years I lived on instant noodles while coding 18-hour days. The wall of industry awards and recognition certificates, that's what giving up relationships and social life for 6 straight years looks like. Every square foot of our 5,000 square foot headquarters represents my vision becoming reality, something I've fought to protect since the day I incorporated. Growing up in the Thompson household meant understanding early that there were completely different expectations for different children. My parents, Margaret and Stephen Thompson, never bothered hiding their favoritism toward my sister Amanda. She was their princess, beautiful, charming, and blessed with our mother's natural charisma and social skills. I was the awkward, introverted daughter who apparently didn't deserve the same investment or attention. Amanda needs these new designer clothes for her internship. Rachel, you understand, don't you? Mom would say, as I wore the same thrift store outfits for another semester. Your sister has such natural networking abilities. By 18, I was working full-time at a local electronics store while maintaining a 4.0 GPA in computer science. Amanda crashed her first Mercedes that same year, a graduation gift from our parents, and received a replacement BMW within 2 weeks. Girls need to feel confident. Dad chuckled as he handed Amanda the keys to a car worth more than my entire college fund. And Amanda has such potential in public relations. I still remember the family dinner conversation during my junior year when I brought up my business idea for a project management software. We've invested everything in Amanda's marketing degree at Stanford. Mom explained, swirling her wine glass. She's already got internship offers from major agencies, and will help fund her first apartment in San Francisco. What about my startup idea? I asked, though I already knew the devastating answer before the words left my mouth. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Rachel, you're brilliant with computers. You can get a stable job anywhere. Besides, starting a business is risky, and you've always been more practical than entrepreneurial. I did graduate with my computer science degree, working 40 hours a week while carrying a full course load and developing my software prototype in my spare time. After 2 years of pure exhaustion and surviving on caffeine and determination, I finally secured my first round of angel investment funding. The day I signed my incorporation papers, my parents barely acknowledged the milestone. They were too busy planning Amanda's elaborate engagement party to her investment banker fiancé. After graduation, I moved into a tiny studio apartment and poured every dollar into developing my platform. I lived on the absolute minimum, reinvesting every penny back into the business. 4 years of strategic partnerships and relentless networking later, I became CEO of a rapidly growing company with 12 employees and major corporate clients. Meanwhile, Amanda bounced between marketing agencies, always with a new, amazing opportunity that inevitably disappointed when she realized actual work was required. Amanda married Michael right after college. They quickly had 3 children, Isabella, who's now 8, Tyler, who's 6, and baby Grace, who's 3. Despite my complicated relationship with my sister, I absolutely adore my nieces and nephew. I've always made sure to be present for their birthdays, school plays, and important milestones. Even when Amanda and Michael made snide comments about my workaholic lifestyle and obsession with money, I continued showing up for the kids. While I was building my company, my parents' financial situation steadily deteriorated. Dad's real estate investments collapsed during the market downturn, and instead of cutting expenses, they kept borrowing against their home equity to fund Amanda's series of failed ventures, a boutique clothing store, an organic food delivery service, and most recently, a revolutionary social media influencer platform that never attracted a single paying customer. 2 years ago, I finally achieved my dream of moving Innovaflow into our own headquarters building. The day we signed the lease was the proudest moment of my professional life. No one from my family attended our grand opening celebration, despite receiving formal invitations 6 weeks in advance. Amanda had a spa weekend that apparently couldn't be rescheduled, and my parents had a prior commitment. They never bothered to specify. The office space itself exceeded everything I had ever envisioned: an open, concept workspace with floor-to-ceiling windows, a state-of-the-art server room, 2 conference rooms equipped with the latest technology, a fully stocked kitchen, and even a meditation room for stressed employees. The building has 24-hour security, covered parking, and we're located in the heart of Seattle's tech corridor. It's my sanctuary, my achievement, my undeniable proof that I didn't need anyone's validation or financial support to succeed beyond their wildest expectations. In the months leading up to Amanda's baby shower, I began noticing my family's comments about my business success becoming increasingly frequent and pointed. "Must be nice to have all that money just sitting in corporate accounts," Mom remarked during a rare visit to our offices, openly examining our expensive equipment and furnishings. "You know, Amanda and Michael could really use some financial stability," Dad mentioned over Easter dinner, watching my reaction carefully. "This company is getting too big for just one person to handle," Amanda suggested with studied casualness. "Maybe it's time to bring in some family partners who really understand your vision." I didn't think much of these comments then. I should have recognized these red flags for exactly what they were: the early signs of an entitlement that would eventually explode in violence and devastating betrayal. The invitation to Amanda's baby shower arrived in my email inbox on a Wednesday morning in May, celebrating Grace's 3rd birthday and Amanda's new beginnings. Read the cheerful subject line, with details showing a Saturday afternoon celebration at my parents' waterfront home. My first instinct was to decline politely. Perhaps a critical client emergency, or an unavoidable board meeting. After years of disappointment and subtle hostility, family gatherings had become endurance tests, requiring me to smile through passive, aggressive comments while biting my tongue. But then the pressure campaign began in earnest. "You absolutely must come to Amanda's party," Mom texted repeatedly. "It's a very special celebration and we have important family business to discuss." Dad called the next day with unusual urgency. "Rachel, your sister is counting on you being there. We're planning something significant for the family's future, and your input is essential." Even Amanda, who rarely contacted me except to ask for technical support with her various failed digital ventures, sent multiple messages. "Hey sis, I really hope you can make it Saturday. There's something exciting we want to share with you about expanding our family's success." My business partner and closest friend, Sarah Martinez, noticed my distraction when we met for our weekly strategy session that Thursday. She's been my most trusted advisor since we met at a tech conference 3 years ago, and she knows my family dynamics better than anyone. "They're being unusually persistent this time," she observed, reviewing quarterly projections on her laptop. "Any idea what this important family business might involve?" I shrugged, trying to focus on our revenue forecasts. "Probably another investment opportunity for Amanda's latest doomed business venture. Maybe they want me to be an angel investor this time." Sarah's expression turned serious, her business instincts clearly activated. "Rachel, remember Thanksgiving? Your mother kept making those pointed comments about sharing success within the family, and how money should benefit everyone, not just one person." I remembered that uncomfortable conversation vividly. At the time, I had dismissed it as my mother's typical guilt-tripping tactics. Now, with this coordinated push for my attendance at the party, I felt an unmistakable flicker of unease deep in my stomach. "Be very careful," Sarah warned, her tone unusually grave. "Set your boundaries clearly before you walk into that situation, and stick to them no matter what emotional manipulation they try." Despite my growing misgivings, I went shopping for Grace's gift on Friday, after our team finished a major client presentation. I selected an expensive interactive learning tablet designed for toddlers, not because it was necessary, but because choosing a less expensive gift would inevitably lead to commentary about my supposed stinginess, despite my obvious financial success. The mental gymnastics required to navigate family interactions without triggering conflict was becoming increasingly exhausting and emotionally draining. Saturday arrived with typical Pacific Northwest drizzle. I chose my outfit carefully professional but understated, a charcoal gray blazer and dark jeans that wouldn't draw attention or accusations of showing off my success. I wrapped Grace's gift in cheerful pink paper, added a simple card with a generic message, and set off for the 40-minute drive to my parents' exclusive waterfront neighborhood in Bellevue. Cascade Heights hadn't changed much since my childhood. The same manicured lawns, the same sprawling contemporary homes with 3-car garages, the same atmosphere of comfortable upper, middle, class conformity that I had always felt slightly outside of. My parents' modern lakefront home at 1847 Lakeshore Drive stood exactly as it always had, though I noticed the landscaping looked professionally maintained, and several luxury cars filled the circular driveway. Subtle signs that their financial troubles might not be as severe as they claimed. The vehicles lined the street suggested Amanda had always been popular, the type of person who effortlessly collected friends and social connections with her natural charm and outgoing personality. I parked my Tesla Model S, another frequent source of family commentary about my flashy lifestyle, a block away and walked slowly toward the house, gift in hand, stomach already churning with familiar anxiety. Laughter and music spilled from the open sliding doors as I approached the beautifully landscaped entrance. I paused at the front door, took a deep breath to center myself, and rang the doorbell instead of using the spare key I still carried. I was clearly a guest now, not a family member with automatic access. Mom answered, her face immediately lighting up with a smile that seemed just a little too bright, a little too performed. Rachel, you made it. She pulled me into an embrace that felt carefully choreographed for the benefit of any observers. Everyone's out on the deck. Amanda will be absolutely thrilled to see you. As I stepped into the familiar marble foyer, the distinctive sense of my childhood home washed over me unexpectedly. Mom's signature vanilla candles, Dad's expensive cologne, the subtle aroma of fresh flowers that were professionally arranged twice weekly. For a brief, disorienting moment, I wanted desperately to believe this could be a normal, loving family celebration where I actually belonged. Dad appeared from the kitchen, cocktail in hand and his usual weekend casual attire. There she is, he announced with booming enthusiasm. Our busy CEO finally found time in her important schedule for little people like us. His tone was jovial and teasing, but the underlying criticism was unmistakably clear and intentional. I forced what I hoped was a natural smile. Wouldn't miss celebrating Grace's special day, I replied, though we all knew this wasn't really about my 3-year-old niece. As I moved toward the deck, I couldn't help but overhear my parents' hushed conversation in the hallway behind me. She came. Perfect, Dad murmured with obvious satisfaction. Everything's arranged exactly as we discussed. Are you absolutely certain about the timing? Mom whispered back nervously. What if she refuses to cooperate or makes a scene in front of everyone? She won't dare, Dad replied with complete confidence. Not with all these witnesses present. Her professional reputation means too much to her. I pretended not to hear this ominous exchange, but my unease deepened significantly. Whatever this arrangement involved, I already knew instinctively that I would hate every aspect of it. The expansive deck had been transformed into an elegant party space, with white string lights, round tables covered in pastel tablecloths, and dozens of pink and gold balloons floating gently in the breeze. About 60 people mingled around, extended family members, longtime neighbors, Amanda's friends from various life phases, and several people I recognized as potential business contacts and investors. Professional catering staff circulated with appetizers, and a full bar setup suggested this was far more elaborate than a typical child's birthday party. I placed Grace's gift on the designated table, which was already overflowing with presents, and grabbed a glass of white wine from a passing server. Liquid courage seemed absolutely necessary for whatever confrontation was inevitably coming. Rachel, is that really you? My Aunt Patricia approached with her usual air of practiced sweetness, examining me from head to toe. Still single and focused on work, you know. My neighbor's son just started his own consulting firm. He's very successful and looking for the right kind of woman. And so the familiar ritual began: the uncomfortable small talk, the thinly veiled personal questions, the unsolicited advice about my life choices. "That company of yours must be worth millions by now," commented my father's business associate, George Hamilton, with obvious calculation in his eyes. "Very impressive for someone your age. Your parents must be incredibly proud of Amanda's success," my mother's longtime friend Carol informed me, as though I needed constant reminding of my secondary status in this family. Such a natural entrepreneur, despite her recent challenges. With each stilted conversation, the knot in my stomach tightened progressively. I checked my phone repeatedly, calculating how soon I could reasonably make my excuses and escape this increasingly uncomfortable situation. Then Amanda made her grand entrance, flanked by Michael and their 3 children like a political candidate arriving at a campaign event. The crowd erupted in enthusiastic cheers and applause for the guest of honor. My sister, now sporting an expensive new hairstyle and designer clothes that clearly cost more than most people's monthly salaries, beamed and waved graciously like royalty acknowledging her subjects. When she spotted me across the crowded deck, she made a direct path in my direction, enveloping me in an overly dramatic hug that smelled of expensive perfume and barely concealed desperation. "You came," she exclaimed loudly enough for all nearby guests to hear clearly. My incredibly successful sister actually made time for us regular people. I returned the embrace stiffly, already recognizing the performance for what it was. "Happy birthday to Grace," I replied, focusing on the only innocent person in this entire charade. Amanda kept her arm possessively around my shoulders as she addressed the people gathered nearby, clearly establishing some kind of territorial claim. "My sister, the tech genius," she announced proudly, "making millions while the rest of us mere mortals struggle to pay our mortgages. Maybe some of that incredible success will finally trickle down to the family tonight, right, Rachel?" The comment hung heavily in the air, loaded with unmistakable implication and expectation. I extracted myself from her grip and moved toward the appetizer table, desperately needing physical and emotional distance from whatever game was being played here. The next 3 hours passed in an endless blur of forced small talk, deflected questions about my personal life, and increasingly pointed comments about family loyalty and sharing success. I was halfway through a conversation with my second cousin about her daughter's college plans when Mom appeared at my elbow with studied casualness. "Rachel, could you join us in your father's study for a few minutes? We need to discuss some important family business privately." The moment I had been dreading had finally arrived. Whatever this mysterious arrangement was, I was about to discover the full scope of their expectations. Dad's study had always been completely off limits when Amanda and I were children. A masculine sanctuary of dark leather, polished wood, and the musty smell of old books that were clearly more for impressive display than actual reading. As I followed Mom down the familiar hallway, away from the noise and laughter of the party, I noticed Amanda and Dad already waiting by the study door with unnaturally composed expressions that immediately put me on high alert. "Close the door behind you, please," Dad instructed as we entered his domain. He settled confidently behind his massive mahogany desk, while Mom and Amanda took seats on the leather sofa, presenting a united front. The only remaining place for me was an uncomfortable wooden chair positioned near the bookshelf, a physical manifestation of my perpetual outsider status in this family dynamic. "Rachel," Dad began, folding his hands on the desk in what I immediately recognized as his serious business negotiation pose. "We wanted to discuss something very important with you as a family unit." Amanda leaned forward eagerly, her party hostess smile replaced by an expression of earnest sincerity that I didn't trust for a single second. "Sis, you know things have been really challenging for us lately financially. The economy has been brutal for small businesses." Dad interjected smoothly, as though his poor investment decisions were somehow the fault of market forces beyond his control, and with Amanda's entrepreneurial ventures requiring significant capital investment. "We've been brainstorming solutions," Mom added, her voice taking on the soothing, manipulative tone she always used when she wanted something important from someone. thinking about creative ways this family can support each other and share resources more effectively. I remained completely silent, waiting with growing dread for them to reveal their true intentions. Dad cleared his throat meaningfully. We've developed a comprehensive plan that makes perfect sense for everyone involved. Your company, InnovateFlow Solutions, it's just you running everything correct. All that responsibility and stress on your shoulders alone. My stomach dropped with sickening certainty. Yes, I'm the majority owner and CEO. Well, Amanda jumped in eagerly, Michael and I have been researching the tech industry extensively. There are so many opportunities for strategic partnerships and family involvement in successful companies. The commute from Bellevue to your downtown office is absolutely killing me. Dad continued seamlessly. And being closer to the tech scene would really help me understand modern business trends. Mom reached across the space to touch my hand, which I instinctively pulled away from her grasp. What we're proposing, dear, she said with practiced maternal warmth, is that you transfer majority ownership of InnovateFlow Solutions to Amanda and Michael. They have fresh marketing perspectives and business management experience, plus Michael's financial background. You can remain as Chief Technology Officer with a generous salary, and the family finally benefits from your hard work and success. The room fell into complete silence as I processed the absolute audacity of what they were suggesting, not requesting, but suggesting as though my compliance was already a foregone conclusion. You want me to give Amanda my $2.3 million company, I finally said, my voice sounding distant and hollow to my own ears, the business I spent 6 years building from nothing. Just hand over controlling interest. We're family, Amanda replied, as if that simple statement explained and justified everything they were demanding. You make enough from your salary to live very comfortably. Maybe you could focus more on technical work instead of all that stressful business management. This isn't some spontaneous idea, Rachel. Dad added with obvious preparation. We've been discussing this comprehensive plan for months. It's the right thing to do for everyone involved. The right thing, I repeated slowly, my voice rising with disbelief. And what exactly do I get in this miraculous arrangement? They exchanged meaningful glances, clearly not expecting this fundamental question about my compensation or benefits. The satisfaction of finally helping your family achieve financial security. Mom offered weakly, as though that was somehow adequate compensation for my life's work. I stood up abruptly, steadying myself against the bookshelf as the full scope of their betrayal hit me. Absolutely not. No way in hell. That company is mine. I built it. I own it. I'm not giving it away to Amanda or anyone else. Amanda's face darkened with immediate anger. Always the selfish one, aren't you, Rachel? Some things never change. No matter how successful you pretend to be. Selfish. I couldn't believe what I was hearing from my own sister. How exactly am I selfish for refusing to give away my company? Because family takes care of family. Dad's voice rose significantly. Your sister has children to support and a future to build. What do you have? A business, an office. What good is success if you don't share it with the people who matter most? I've shared plenty, I countered firmly, thinking of all the financial help I'd provided over the years when Amanda's ventures failed, the expensive gifts for my nieces and nephew, the loans to my parents that were never repaid or even acknowledged. But my company is absolutely not on the table for discussion. Mom's expression hardened noticeably. After everything we've done for you throughout your life. A bitter laugh escaped me involuntarily. What exactly have you done for me? I put myself through college while working full-time. I built my career without any help or support from anyone in this family. I saved every penny while you were funding Amanda's failed businesses. There it is. Amanda sneered with obvious satisfaction. Little Miss Perfect thinks she accomplished everything completely on her own. Newsflash, Rachel, you had advantages I never had access to. Like what advantages? I demanded, genuinely curious about her reasoning. Like your brain, she spat. School was always effortless for you. Some of us had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Work. I was absolutely incredulous. When have you ever worked hard at anything, Amanda? Every opportunity was handed to you on a silver platter while I fought for scraps of attention. Dad slammed his hand violently on the desk. That's enough. This isn't about relitigating the past. This is about what's best for this family's future right now. And what's best is for me to give up my company," I said, moving determinedly toward the door. "This conversation is over. I'm not transferring anything to anyone. Not today, not ever." Amanda jumped up quickly, blocking my path to the exit. "You can't just walk away from this discussion. We've already talked to business advisors about the transition process." That stopped me completely cold. "You did what?" "We thought once we explained the benefits, you'd understand the logic," Mom said defensively. "Amanda's already been meeting with potential new clients for the expanded business model." The audacity was absolutely breathtaking and infuriating. They had planned this entire corporate takeover without any input from me, assuming I would simply comply with their outrageous demands like an obedient child. "Move, Amanda," I said quietly but firmly. "I'm leaving right now, running away again," she taunted cruelly. "That's your solution to everything difficult, isn't it? When things get challenging." Rachel disappears. "I'm not running away from anything. I'm refusing to participate in your delusional fantasy that my property somehow belongs to you." I pushed past her roughly, heading back toward the party to collect my purse and car keys. "Don't you dare walk away from me," Amanda shouted, following me down the hallway with obvious fury. "We're not finished with this conversation." Guests turned to stare as we emerged into the main party area, Amanda's voice carrying clearly over the background music and conversations. 2 years old and still only thinking about yourself," she continued, apparently unconcerned about making a public scene at her daughter's birthday party. I spotted my purse on a side table and made my way toward it, ignoring the curious and uncomfortable looks from other guests who were witnessing our family drama unfold. Mom grabbed my arm firmly. "Rachel, please just think about this rationally. We can discuss all the details later when emotions aren't running so high." I pulled free from her grip forcefully. "There's nothing to think about or discuss. The answer is no forever. After everything this family has given you over the years," Dad said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, "this is how you repay our love and support." The irony was so overwhelming I almost laughed out loud. "Given me? What exactly have you given me that wasn't given 10 times over to Amanda first? Don't drag me into your victim complex." Amanda spat angrily. "Just because you're jealous of my normal, happy family life instead of your lonely, workaholic existence." By now, the entire party had gone completely quiet. 60 pairs of eyes watched our family conflict unfold like some terrible reality television show. "I'm leaving," I announced clearly, grabbing my purse. "Happy birthday to Grace. I hope she enjoys the tablet." As I turned toward the sliding door exit, Amanda's face contorted with pure rage. "You think you're better than all of us, don't you? With your fancy company and your arrogant attitude." I didn't respond, which only seemed to infuriate her more completely. "Answer me," she demanded, grabbing a coffee mug from the beverage station. "You think you're too good for this family, Amanda?" Michael cautioned suddenly, appearing at her side with obvious concern. "Not here. Not like this." But she was clearly beyond any reasoning or restraint. As I reached for the door handle, I heard the collective gasp from the crowd before I felt the searing impact. The scalding coffee hit my face and neck, the ceramic mug shattering against my shoulder, sending hot liquid and sharp fragments across my skin. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. I stumbled forward, my vision blurring from the burns as I somehow managed to slide the door open and stagger outside onto the deck. "Oh my God," someone screamed. "Call an ambulance immediately." The last thing I remember, before losing consciousness, was the horrified faces of party guests rushing toward me and Amanda standing in the doorway. Broken mug pieces scattered at her feet, her expression a disturbing mixture of shock and something that looked unnervingly like satisfaction. The world came back into focus in painful fragments. The wail of approaching sirens, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, gentle hands applying something cool to my burning face. I was lying on the wooden deck of my parents' house, a growing crowd of party guests forming a protective circle around me. Their faces swam in and out of focus as I fought to remain conscious through the searing pain. "Stay with me, Rachel." The voice belonged to Dr. Michelle Roberts, a family friend and emergency physician who had been attending the party. Her hands were steady and professional as she carefully examined my burns. "The ambulance is almost here. Try not to touch your face." I tried to speak, but the words came out as barely a whisper. My face felt like it was still on fire, pain radiating from every spot the scalding coffee had touched. She threw coffee at me. I managed to croak. Amanda attacked me with boiling coffee. I know. Honey, everyone saw what happened. Dr. Roberts' voice was gentle, but her expression was grim with professional concern. The police are on their way too. This is assault, Rachel. From the corner of my eye, I could see my parents on the deck, their faces pale with shock and what looked like genuine fear. Dad had his arm around Mom, who was sobbing into her hands in what appeared to be real distress. Amanda was nowhere to be seen, having apparently fled the scene immediately after her attack. The ambulance arrived with flashing lights and urgent efficiency that cut through the suburban quiet. The paramedics worked quickly and professionally, asking questions I struggled to answer through the fog of pain and medication they administered. Name Rachel Thompson, age 32. Do you know what happened to you? My sister threw scalding coffee in my face during a family argument. Do you know what day it is? I had to concentrate hard on that seemingly simple question. Saturday. Grace's birthday party. Good. We're going to transport you to the hospital now for proper burn treatment. As they carefully lifted me onto the stretcher, I caught sight of police cars pulling into the circular driveway. 2 uniformed officers approached the house with notebooks already in hand and serious expressions. I'm coming with you, Dr. Roberts announced firmly, climbing into the ambulance beside me without hesitation. You shouldn't be alone, and I can provide medical context to the hospital staff. The ride to Seattle General Hospital passed in a blur of sirens, careful movement to avoid jarring my injuries, and the constant application of cooling treatments to my burned skin. In the emergency room, doctors confirmed what Dr. Roberts had already suspected. Second-degree burns across my face and neck requiring immediate specialized treatment. The dermatologist showed me the extent of the damage using a specialized mirror. You're extremely fortunate, she explained while applying prescription burn cream. A few degrees hotter and we'd be looking at third-degree burns requiring skin grafts. As it stands, you'll heal completely, though you may have some temporary discoloration for several weeks. Fortunate wasn't exactly how I felt, sitting in a hospital gown with my face covered in medical gel and my neck wrapped in specialized bandages. Dr. Roberts had stayed throughout the entire treatment process, only stepping out during actual medical procedures. Your friend Sarah is on her way. She informed me when the immediate treatment was complete. I found her number in your phone and explained what happened. She sounded absolutely furious. I nodded gratefully, though the movement sent fresh waves of pain across my damaged skin. The police officers arrived just as the doctor was giving me final instructions about burn care and follow-up appointments. They introduced themselves as Detectives Karen Wilson and Michael Torres, their expressions professional, but clearly sympathetic to my situation. Ms. Thompson, we'd like to ask you some questions about what happened at the party today, if you're feeling up to it, Detective Wilson said gently. I recounted everything chronologically, the family meeting about transferring my company, the demands for majority ownership, the argument that spilled into the public party space, and finally Amanda's assault with the scalding coffee. There were at least 60 witnesses, I concluded. Everyone at the party saw her attack me deliberately. Detective Torres nodded as he took detailed notes. We've already taken preliminary statements from several guests. Your sister left the scene immediately, but we have officers looking for her now. I want to press full charges, I said firmly, despite the pain medication making me slightly drowsy. Assault and battery, at minimum. This was completely unprovoked violence. We'll need you to come to the station to make a formal statement once you're released from the hospital, Detective Wilson explained. But yes, based on witness accounts and the severity of your injuries, your sister is facing serious felony charges. What about my parents? I asked. They were part of the conspiracy to take my company too. The detectives exchanged meaningful glances. Did they physically assault you as well? Detective Torres asked. My mother grabbed my arm to prevent me from leaving, and they were all part of the plan to essentially steal my business. Detective Wilson made careful notes. We'll include that in our report. Depending on the specifics we uncover, there could be additional charges related to conspiracy and attempted fraud. Sarah arrived as the officers were finishing their initial interview, her face tight with worry and obvious anger. Rachel. Oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened. She rushed to my bedside, carefully avoiding the medical equipment and monitoring devices. Dr. Roberts gave Sarah the officer's contact cards before they departed. We'll be in touch, Ms. Thompson. Try to rest and heal. And call us when you're ready to come in for your formal statement. After they left, Sarah turned to me with eyes bright with protective fury. Your sister did this over the company ownership discussion we talked about. They didn't just discuss it. I told her, the reality of the situation finally sinking in completely. They had already talked to business advisors about the transition. They enrolled potential new clients. They assumed I would just hand over controlling interest without question. That's absolutely insane, Sarah said, her business mind clearly processing the implications. Completely delusional and probably illegal. Dr. Roberts, who had been quietly organizing my discharge papers and prescriptions, joined our conversation. I've known your family for several years through social circles, Rachel, but I never imagined Amanda capable of this level of violence. Neither did I admitted honestly. But looking back at the pattern, the signs were definitely there. The entitlement, the resentment, the constant comparisons and assumptions about what I owed them. The attending physician returned with detailed discharge instructions and multiple prescriptions for pain management and burn care. You'll need someone to stay with you for at least 72 hours to monitor for complications, he explained professionally. Any signs of infection, increased pain, or unusual swelling require immediate medical attention. She's staying with me, Sarah declared without hesitation. My guest room is completely ready, and I work from home this week anyway. And I'll check on you tomorrow, Dr. Roberts added with professional courtesy. Burn care is my specialty, so consider me your personal consultant. As Sarah helped me change back into my clothes, now stained with coffee and marked by the afternoon's trauma, I felt a strange sense of clarity despite the throbbing pain in my face and neck. For years, I had accepted my family's emotional manipulation, making excuses for their behavior and trying to maintain peace at any cost. It took scalding coffee to the face to finally see the truth about their character. I need to talk to a lawyer immediately, I said as Sarah carefully helped me toward the exit. Not just about the assault, but about everything. The company, the financial manipulation, all of it. My law school roommate Rebecca Kim is a corporate attorney, Sarah offered. She specializes in business disputes and family law issues. She'll know exactly who to connect you with for this situation. Outside, the evening air felt cool and soothing against my bandaged skin. As Sarah helped me into her car, I looked back at the hospital entrance, illuminated by harsh fluorescent lighting. I'm done, I said quietly but with absolute conviction. Done making excuses for them. Done accepting emotional manipulation. Done being the family ATM that they can attack when I don't comply with their demands. Sarah squeezed my uninjured hand gently. It's about time you realized your worth, she said. You deserve so much better than their toxic behavior. In that moment, with my face bandaged and my heart finally hardened against their manipulation, I made a life-changing decision. This wasn't just about the assault or even the attempted business theft. This was about 32 years of systematic emotional abuse, financial exploitation, and the assumption that my success belonged to them. And for the first time in my life, I was going to fight back with everything I had. The following days passed in a medicated haze of pain management, interrupted sleep, and slowly growing realizations about the depth of my family's betrayal. Sarah's guest room became my sanctuary as I recovered from both the physical trauma and the emotional aftermath of Amanda's attack. True to her word, she stayed with me constantly, monitoring my healing progress and fielding the barrage of calls and texts that started arriving from various family members. Your mother called again, Sarah reported on the third morning, bringing me herbal tea and toast cut into small pieces for easier eating. That's the 7th time since yesterday evening. What did she say this time? I asked carefully, sitting up in bed. The room no longer spun when I moved, which I considered significant progress. The same manipulative script as before. Amanda is devastated about what happened. She wasn't herself. She's seeking therapy now. And they want to work things out as a family, without involving lawyers or outside parties. Sarah's tone made it abundantly clear what she thought of these transparent platitudes. And my father. No direct calls from him yet, But your mom mentioned he's heartbroken about the misunderstanding and wants to find a way to heal the family rift. I laughed bitterly, which hurt my healing facial burns. Misunderstanding. That's one way to describe a premeditated attempt to steal my company, followed by assault with scalding liquid when I refused. My phone chimed with another text message. Sarah checked it for me, following strict doctor's orders to limit my screen time during recovery. "It's your Aunt Patricia," she reported with obvious disdain. She says, and I quote, "Family should always forgive family. Amanda made a terrible mistake, but she's suffering tremendous guilt too. Think about the children. Block her number." I said warily. "Block all of them for now. I need to heal and think clearly without their constant emotional manipulation." Later that afternoon, Sarah's friend Rebecca Kim arrived at the house, briefcase in hand and determination in her professional stride. At 38, Rebecca had the polished confidence and sharp intelligence of someone used to winning complex legal battles for high-stakes clients. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon is just the beginning, she declared after I had recounted the entire story in detail. There's attempted coercion, conspiracy to commit fraud, harassment, and potentially even racketeering depending on how long they've been planning this corporate takeover. "What do you recommend as our next steps?" I asked, trusting her expertise completely. "First, a comprehensive restraining order against Amanda, minimum. Possibly against your parents too, depending on their continuing harassment patterns. Second, we pursue maximum criminal charges for the assault. This was felony assault with a dangerous weapon, causing bodily harm. Third, we investigate potential civil damages for medical expenses, lost income, and emotional distress." Rebecca tapped her expensive pen against her legal pad thoughtfully. "But there's something else I want to investigate thoroughly. You mentioned your parents' house and their financial struggles. Do you know whose names are actually on the property deed?" The question caught me completely off guard. My parents, I assume. Why would that matter? Rebecca's expression turned calculating and interested. "Just covering all possible bases and looking for leverage. Can I ask you to sign some authorization forms, allowing me to do preliminary research into property records and financial documents?" After Rebecca left, promising to return with comprehensive information within 48 hours, Dr. Roberts stopped by to check my healing progress and change the specialized bandages. "The burns are healing excellently," she assured me, carefully examining my face and neck. "No signs of infection, and the discoloration is already beginning to fade. How's the pain level?" "Much more manageable," I replied honestly. "The headaches are less frequent, and I can eat normally again." Dr. Roberts hesitated before speaking again, clearly weighing her words carefully. "Rachel, there's something you should know that might be relevant to your legal case. I didn't want to add to your stress immediately after the attack, but given that you're pursuing criminal charges." She took a deep breath. "The night of the party, after you were taken to the hospital, I overheard Amanda and your parents having a heated argument. They were upset about what happened, but not in the way you might expect." "What do you mean exactly?" I asked, though I suspected the answer would be disturbing. "Your father was furious with Amanda, but not for hurting you. He was angry because she screwed up the plan by being too aggressive and creating witnesses. Your mother kept saying they needed to regroup and try a different approach to get your company." The information settled like a cold weight in my chest, confirming my worst suspicions. It sounded like the assault wasn't part of their original plan, but taking your business definitely was their ultimate goal. "Thank you for telling me," I said grimly. "That actually strengthens my case significantly." 2 days later, Rebecca returned with a thick folder of documents and a surprisingly satisfied expression on her face. "I have some very interesting and potentially game-changing information," she announced, spreading legal documents across Sarah's dining table. "First, about your parents' house and property ownership. I pulled all the property records going back 15 years, and guess whose name appears on the deed alongside Stephen and Margaret Thompson?" My stomach dropped with sudden realization. "No. Please tell me they didn't." "Yes. Your name is listed as a co-owner. Do you remember signing any paperwork about 7 years ago?" A vague memory surfaced slowly. "Dad calling me about refinancing the house, needing my signature on some forms, because the bank required additional security for the loan approval." I had signed without reading the documents carefully, trusting my parents when they said it was just a standard formality for the refinancing process. They added me to the deed because they couldn't qualify for the refinancing on their own. I realized with growing anger, my credit score and income were what got them approved for the larger loan amount. Rebecca nodded grimly. Exactly. Which means you're not just a co-signer on their mortgage, you're a legal co-owner of the property with full ownership rights. 1/3 ownership, to be precise. The implications began to dawn on me with startling clarity. So if they've taken out additional loans against the house since then, they would have needed my signature legally speaking. If they forged your signature or proceeded without your knowledge and consent, that constitutes serious fraud. Rebecca confirmed. Which brings me to my second major discovery. She handed me a printout of what appeared to be a business registration document. Thompson Family Enterprises LLC. I read aloud with disbelief. Registered to, wait, this is my home address. My personal address, filed 4 months ago, Rebecca confirmed with obvious satisfaction. With Amanda Thompson listed as CEO and your parents listed as board members. They registered a business entity at your address without your knowledge, permission, or consent. My hands shook as I processed this additional betrayal. They were planning to take my company for months. The birthday party confrontation wasn't spontaneous. It was the culmination of a long-term, carefully planned strategy. Rebecca nodded with professional satisfaction. It gets significantly worse. We pulled Amanda's credit report as part of our case preparation. She's been telling creditors and financial institutions that she lives at your address. There are utility accounts, credit cards, even a car loan using your home address as her primary residence. The depth of betrayal cut even deeper, but with it came a strange sense of validation. I hadn't imagined their sense of entitlement. It was real, documented, and apparently had no limits whatsoever. What does all this mean for my legal case? I asked. It means we have significantly more leverage than I initially thought possible. Rebecca explained with obvious excitement. The assault is serious enough on its own, but this documented pattern of financial deception and identity theft adds enormous weight to our position. And regarding the house, she tapped the property deed document meaningfully. As a legal co-owner, you have substantial rights, including the right to force a sale if the other owners are engaging in fraud or misconduct. The room fell silent as I considered the full implications of what she was telling me. You're saying I could actually force the sale of their house, the one they've lived in for 25 years? Legally, yes. It would require court approval. But given these circumstances, their attempt to steal your business followed by violent assault when you refused, plus the extensive financial fraud, we have an extremely strong case for partition sale. It seemed almost too perfect, a karmic reversal I hadn't dared to imagine possible. I need time to think about this carefully, I said. Of course, Rebecca agreed. It's a significant step with major consequences, but I wanted you to understand all your legal options. As Rebecca packed up her documents, my phone rang despite the call blocking. This one came from an unknown number that somehow bypassed our filters. Should I answer it? Sarah asked. Put it on speaker. I decided, curious about who was trying to reach me. The voice that came through was my father's, his tone uncharacteristically subdued and careful. Rachel, are you there? We desperately need to talk about what happened at the party. I have nothing to say to you. I replied coldly. My attorney will handle all communication from now on. Attorney, Rachel. This is family business. We don't need lawyers complicating a simple family disagreement. Family business stopped being an option when Amanda threw scalding coffee in my face. I said firmly. And it definitely ended when I discovered your months-long plan to steal my company. There was a long pause before he continued, clearly caught off guard. That business registration was just preliminary planning. We were going to bring you in as a full partner eventually. It was going to be a legitimate family enterprise. The audacity was absolutely breathtaking and infuriating. Stop lying to me, Dad. You've been planning to take my company for months. You just didn't expect me to refuse your demands. We're your family, he insisted, his voice hardening with familiar manipulation. Everything we've done has been for this family's benefit. Your success should benefit all of us, not just you. My success. I felt my anger rising despite the pain medication. My success that you had no part in creating. that you actively undermined and criticized at every opportunity. Don't be so dramatic and ungrateful. We supported you when it mattered. When? I demanded. When you refused to help with college expenses. When you criticized my career choices. When you borrowed money from me that you never repaid. When exactly did you support me? This conversation isn't productive, he snapped, losing his manipulative patience. We'll talk when you're being more reasonable and grateful. No, we won't, I said with finality. Any further communication goes through my attorney. And Dad, you might want to get your own lawyer. You're going to need professional legal help very soon. I ended the call, my heart pounding but my resolve strengthening with each exchange. Rebecca gave me an approving nod. You handled that perfectly, she said, and it's additional evidence of their continuing harassment and manipulation tactics. As she left, promising to file comprehensive restraining order paperwork immediately, I turned to Sarah with new determination. I've made my decision about the house, I announced. Are you absolutely sure? She asked carefully. It's a major step with permanent consequences. I nodded firmly, feeling the last pieces of my lifelong need for family approval finally crumbling away. They were willing to steal everything from me, without a second thought or moment of hesitation. It's time they learned that actions have serious consequences. The depth of my family's financial deception became even clearer in the days that followed. Rebecca connected me with Marcus Johnson, a forensic accountant who specialized in cases involving family financial fraud and corporate espionage. What he uncovered in his preliminary investigation left even Rebecca, who thought she'd seen every type of family manipulation in her 15 years of practice, visibly shocked and appalled. They've been planning this corporate takeover for well over 18 months. Marcus explained, spreading detailed spreadsheets and financial documents across Sarah's dining table, which had become our unofficial legal command center. The first traces appear 16 months ago, when your parents refinanced their mortgage again. Using your credit rating but forging your signature on multiple documents. I never authorized any refinancing, I confirmed, examining the signature that was a poor and obvious imitation of my actual handwriting. Then approximately 14 months ago, they created that shell company, Thompson Family Holdings, with you listed as a silent partner. Marcus pointed to another document with obvious satisfaction at uncovering the deception. Again, forged signature, but this time they also used your social security number for tax registration. Rebecca made careful notes. That's multiple counts of identity theft plus forgery and fraud. It gets progressively worse. Marcus continued with professional outrage. 12 months ago, they began listing your home address as the primary residence for both Amanda and your parents on various financial applications and credit accounts. 10 months ago, they registered the business using your address without permission, and 6 months ago, they started the process of identifying and approaching your current business clients. All of this confirms extensive premeditation. Rebecca noted grimly, this wasn't a spontaneous request at a family party. This was a calculated, long-term conspiracy to essentially steal your entire livelihood and business. I stared at the mountain of evidence documenting their betrayal, feeling a strange numbness replacing my initial shock and anger. Did they really think they could get away with this level of fraud? Marcus adjusted his glasses and pulled out additional documents. Based on their email communications, which we obtained through legal discovery, yes. There are detailed discussions between Amanda and your parents about how to convince Rachel, or, failing that, how to leverage her family obligations and guilt. They seem to have genuinely believed you would eventually capitulate to family pressure rather than risk public conflict. And if I didn't? I asked, though I suspected the answer would be disturbing. Marcus and Rebecca exchanged meaningful glances. There are some very concerning messages about alternative approaches, if you proved difficult to persuade. Marcus admitted carefully. Nothing explicitly threatening violence, but clear implications that they were prepared to escalate their tactics significantly. The following day, Detective Sofia Martinez from the Financial Crimes Unit came to review Marcus's findings. She brought additional evidence gathered during the police investigation of the assault and subsequent search warrants. We obtained warrants to search Amanda's phone, computer, and email accounts based on the assault charges. She explained professionally. What we discovered corroborates everything your forensic accountant found, plus some additional concerning elements. She opened her laptop to display a series of text messages between Amanda and my father from 3 weeks before the party. Amanda. What if she still refuses after we explain the family partnership? Dad, she won't. Your mother and I will make it clear this isn't really a request. Amanda. But if she does refuse? Dad. Then we move to plan B. She's on the deed to our house. We have significant leverage. What did they mean by leverage? I asked, though I was beginning to understand their strategy. Detective Martinez sighed with obvious disgust. Based on other messages, they were planning to claim you had verbally agreed to sign over your company in exchange for removing your name from their house deed. They were essentially going to claim a verbal contract and business partnership that never existed. Rebecca looked outraged. That would never hold up in any court. They probably knew that. Detective Martinez agreed. But they were counting on family pressure and your desire to avoid lengthy, expensive legal proceedings to force your compliance with their demands. I shook my head, still struggling to comprehend the extent of their scheming and manipulation. They really thought they had figured out every angle. People who engage in this kind of familial financial abuse often believe their actions are completely justified. Detective Martinez explained. They convince themselves that family resources should be communal, especially when one member is significantly more successful than others. Our meeting was interrupted by an urgent call from the security desk at my office building. Ms. Thompson. This is Carlos from building security. There's a situation you need to be aware of immediately. A man and woman claiming to be your business partners attempted to gain access to your office suite. When we refused entry, they became increasingly agitated, claiming they had a legal right to enter because, and I'm quoting directly here, the business partnership will be finalized soon, and they're already authorized managers. My blood ran cold with realization. Did they leave? Only after we threatened to call the police immediately, but before they left. The woman said something about changing the access codes, being their right as incoming business partners. I thanked Carlos for his vigilance and professionalism, then immediately relayed this information to Detective Martinez, who promised to send officers to interview the security staff and review all available surveillance footage. This is a clear violation of the restraining order, Rebecca noted with satisfaction, and further evidence of their continuing intent to take your business by any means necessary, legal or illegal. Later that evening, the building management sent me security footage showing Amanda and my father attempting to use some kind of electronic device on my office door lock, apparently trying to hack or reprogram the access system. The timestamp showed they had returned after being turned away by security, clearly believing they could gain unauthorized access through the parking garage. This is beyond delusional, Sarah commented as we watched the footage together. They're acting like they already own your business. In their minds, they do. I replied with grim understanding. They've convinced themselves they're entitled to it. The next day, Rebecca confirmed what I had been gradually realizing. As a co-owner of my parents' house, I had the legal right to force its sale, especially given the extensively documented fraud and ongoing criminal harassment. The court will almost certainly approve a partition sale, she explained with confidence. Given the circumstances, including the violent assault and the multiple instances of identity theft and fraud, you have an exceptionally strong case. And the proceeds from the sale, I asked, would be divided according to ownership percentages after settling any liens or outstanding mortgages. Your share would be 1/3 of the net proceeds. I sat with this information, turning it over carefully in my mind. The house that had been the site of so much favoritism and emotional manipulation could become the instrument of justice and consequences. There was a certain poetic symmetry to it that appealed to me. If I decide to proceed with this, I said slowly, how quickly could it happen? Given the urgency created by the ongoing harassment and the pending criminal case, we could expedite the entire process. 3 weeks, possibly less if we can demonstrate continued threats to your safety. Rebecca studied my face carefully. Are you certain this is what you want to do? I thought about my childhood in that house, always feeling like an unwelcome guest in my own family home. I thought about the coffee burns still healing on my face and neck. I thought about the years of manipulation, the constant expectation that I should give and sacrifice while receiving nothing in return. Yes, I said with absolute conviction. It's time they learned that actions have real consequences. The emotional weight of my decision led me to seek professional therapy. Dr. Elizabeth Foster specialized in family trauma and financial abuse, and our sessions became crucial for processing the legal proceedings and my complex feelings. What you're experiencing is profound betrayal on multiple levels, Dr. Foster explained during our second session. Not just the assault and attempted theft, but years of conditional love and systematic exploitation. I keep questioning whether I'm doing the right thing, I admitted. Forcing the sale of their house seems so harsh and final. Let me ask you this. Dr. Foster replied thoughtfully. If a stranger had assaulted you and tried to steal your business, would you hesitate to seek justice through legal means? No, of course not. The fact that their family doesn't lessen their crimes. If anything, it makes the betrayal significantly worse. She leaned forward with professional intensity. Rachel, setting boundaries and demanding consequences isn't punishment or revenge. It's self-protection and basic human dignity. A week into the legal proceedings, I received a letter from my parents' newly hired attorney, demanding that I pay for Amanda's emotional distress resulting from her arrest, and the damage to her reputation caused by the assault charges. The letter claimed that I had provoked the assault by selfishly refusing to help family members in financial need, and demanded that I drop all charges and proceed with the previously agreed upon business transfer. It was the final push I needed to proceed without any lingering doubts. I contacted Rebecca immediately, moved forward with the house sale at full speed ahead. Within days, we had listed the property with Margaret Collins, a real estate agent who specialized in quick sales of high-value properties. Given the house's location in an extremely desirable waterfront neighborhood, interest was immediate and competitive. Within 1 week, we had received multiple offers, the highest coming from developer Harrison Kim, who planned to demolish the existing structure and build a modern luxury home on the valuable lot. It's an all-cash offer, the $75,000 above asking price with a 2-week closing timeline, Margaret explained with professional excitement. They're willing to handle all the eviction proceedings as part of the purchase agreement. I shook my head firmly. No need for them to handle evictions. I'll take care of that personally. The court hearing for the partition sale was scheduled for exactly 3 weeks after Amanda's assault. My parents and their attorney argued vehemently against the sale, claiming family property should be protected from vindictive actions and temporary family disputes. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her early 60s, was completely unimpressed by their arguments. The evidence of fraud and identity theft is substantial and well documented, she noted sternly. And the violent assault for which the defendant has already been indicted by a grand jury adds a serious dimension of ongoing danger and harassment. The petition sale is approved. As I left the courthouse with legal victory secured, I made 2 important decisions that would surprise my family. First, I instructed Rebecca to establish college funds for Isabella Tyler and baby Grace with a portion of my proceeds from the house sale. Whatever my feelings about their parents, my nieces and nephew were completely innocent children who deserved educational opportunities. Second, I anonymously donated a significant amount to a local women's shelter and legal aid organization, wanting something positive and meaningful to come from this painful chapter of my life. Are you ready for what comes next? Sarah asked as we drove home from the courthouse. I touched the fading scars on my face and neck, permanent reminders of my family's true character and capacity for violence. More than ready. Exactly 3 weeks and 3 days after Amanda threw scalding coffee in my face, I pulled up to 1847 Lakeshore Drive for what I knew would be the absolute last time. Behind me was a small convoy, a sheriff's deputy in an official vehicle, Rebecca in her sleek sedan, and a moving truck with 3 professional movers waiting for instructions. The morning was bright and clear, a beautiful spring day that seemed oddly at odds with the grim task ahead. I had chosen this particular morning deliberately, Saturday, when I knew my parents, friends, and neighbors would be home to witness whatever unfolded. Are you absolutely sure you want to handle this personally? Rebecca asked as we stood on the sidewalk, surveying the impressive house that had once been my childhood home. I could manage the entire process for you, I shook my head with determination. No, I need to do this myself. They need to understand personally that their actions have consequences. The sheriff's deputy, a professional woman named Officer Rodriguez, with kind eyes and a firm demeanor, reviewed the court order one final time. Everything's in order, Ms. Thompson. I'll accompany you to serve the eviction notice and property transfer documents. The residents have 48 hours to vacate the premises completely. I took a deep breath and walked up the familiar stone path to the front door, flanked by Rebecca and Officer Rodriguez. The doorbell chimed the same melodic tune it had since my childhood. For a brief moment, muscle memory almost made me reach for my old house key, before I remembered exactly why I was here. The door swung open to reveal my father, dressed in weekend casual clothes, his expression shifting from routine annoyance to complete shock as he registered who stood before him. Rachel, what is this? His eyes darted to Officer Rodriguez in her uniform, then to Rebecca with her official briefcase, and finally to the moving truck visible at the curb. Stephen Thompson. Officer Rodriguez asked formally. I'm here to serve you with an eviction notice and property transfer documents, by order of the King County Superior Court. This property has been sold in a court-ordered partition action. Sold. My father's face drained of all color. That's impossible. This is our family home. It was your home, I corrected him calmly, until you decided to forge my signature on refinancing documents, commit multiple counts of identity theft using my name, and then have Amanda assault me when I wouldn't give you my company. Margaret, he shouted over his shoulder desperately. Get out here immediately. My mother appeared in the hallway, still in her bathrobe despite the late morning hour. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw me with the official entourage. Rachel, what's happening here? She's claiming the house has been sold. My father spat bitterly. Some legal nonsense about court orders and eviction. Officer Rodriguez held out the official documents professionally. Mom, sir, these papers explain everything in detail. As a legal co-owner of this property, Miss Thompson had the right to petition for a partition sale, which the court granted based on substantial evidence of fraud and criminal activity. My mother's hand flew to her throat in genuine shock. This can't be legal. We've lived here for 25 years. We raised our children here. It's perfectly legal, Rebecca interjected with professional authority. The documentation is all here. Properly filed and court approved. The new owner takes possession immediately, though you have 48 hours to remove your personal belongings. Movement behind my parents caught my attention. Amanda appeared, apparently having been staying with them since her release on bail for the assault charges. Her face contorted with immediate rage when she saw me standing there. You? She snarled, lunging forward aggressively, only to be blocked by my father's outstretched arm. Not now, Amanda, my father hissed urgently. There's a police officer right there. Officer Rodriguez's hand moved instinctively toward her weapon as a precautionary measure. I need you to step back immediately. You're currently in violation of a restraining order by being in Ms. Thompson's presence. This is my parents' house. Amanda protested angrily. Not anymore, I said with calm satisfaction. And technically, it was always partially mine. A fact you all exploited when it benefited you and conveniently forgot when it didn't. By now, neighbors had begun to notice the unusual commotion. Dr. Roberts stood on her front lawn with arms crossed, watching the scene unfold with obvious interest. Other familiar faces appeared in windows and doorways, curiosity drawing them to witness my family's very public downfall. You can't do this to us, my mother pleaded, tears streaming down her face in what appeared to be genuine distress. Where will we go? What about Amanda's children? You should have thought about that before you tried to steal my company. I replied, surprised by my own emotional steadiness. Before you forged my signature on legal documents. Before Amanda decided that scalding coffee was an acceptable response to hearing the word no, for once in her entitled life. Officer Rodriguez handed the comprehensive paperwork to my father, who took it with visibly trembling hands. You have exactly 48 hours to vacate completely. The moving company here can assist with your belongings if you choose to hire them. Is this really what you want? My father asked me, his voice hollow with defeat. To make your own family homeless. No, I corrected him firmly. This is what you created when you decided my property was yours to take. That my boundaries didn't matter. That my success was something you were entitled to simply because we share DNA. Amanda, unable to contain her fury any longer, spat directly at my feet. Always the victim, aren't you, Rachel? Poor little girl who had to actually work for things instead of having them handed to her like I supposedly did. Officer Rodriguez stepped protectively between us. Ma'am, one more outburst and I'll arrest you immediately for violating the restraining order. Go ahead. Amanda challenged recklessly. Add it to the list. My life is already completely ruined thanks to her selfishness. Your life is the direct result of your own choices and actions. I replied matter-of-factly. Just as mine is the result of my choices. As if perfectly timed, more vehicles pulled up to the house. Michael's car with Isabella, Tyler, and baby Grace, apparently arriving for a weekend visit. And several of my parents' longtime friends, who must have been alerted to the situation by frantic phone calls or neighborhood gossip. Michael's face went pale as he took in the scene. The moving truck, the sheriff's deputy, the legal papers in my father's shaking hands. What's happening here? He asked with obvious confusion and growing alarm. Your sister-in-law has sold our family home out from under us. My father announced loudly for the benefit of the growing audience of neighbors and friends. She's throwing her own parents onto the street out of pure vindictiveness. I turned to address not just my immediate family, but the assembled neighbors, friends, and curious onlookers. What he's not telling you is that they forged my signature on multiple legal documents, registered fraudulent businesses using my address without permission, and conspired for over a year to steal my company. When I refused their demands, Amanda assaulted me with scalding coffee in front of 60 witnesses, sending me to the hospital with second-degree burns. A murmur of shock and recognition ran through the crowd. Many of them had been at the party and witnessed the assault firsthand, but hadn't known the full context of events leading up to it. That's not how it happened. Amanda protested weakly, but her voice lacked conviction. There are court records, Rebecca added with professional authority. Financial documents, police reports, witness statements, medical records. The facts are thoroughly documented and indisputable. My mother, seeing that public sympathy was definitely not swinging in their direction, changed tactics to direct emotional manipulation. Rachel, please, she begged dramatically. We're still your family. Whatever mistakes we may have made, surely we can work this out like civilized people. I've arranged a 2-bedroom apartment for you and Dad, I informed her, delivering my final act of familial obligation. It's paid through the end of the year. The address and contact information are included in the paperwork. It's not what you're accustomed to, but it's clean, safe, and affordable. My father looked genuinely stunned by this revelation. You're still helping us after everything that's happened. I'm ensuring you're not literally homeless. I clarified carefully. Not out of obligation or love, but because I refuse to become the kind of person you tried to make me. Someone who puts self-interest above basic human decency. Amanda scoffed with obvious disgust. What about us? Where are Michael and the children supposed to go now? That's not my responsibility, I said firmly. But since you're asking about your children's future, you should know I've established college funds for all 3 of them with part of my proceeds from this sale. Unlike some people in this family, I don't punish innocent children for their parents' terrible choices and criminal behavior. Michael's expression softened slightly at this unexpected news, though Amanda looked more outraged than grateful for my generosity toward her children. You have 48 hours, I repeated, turning to leave this toxic situation behind forever. I strongly suggest you start packing immediately. As I walked back toward my car with Rebecca and Officer Rodriguez, my father called after me one last time. Is this really how you want to end things, Rachel? 2 years of family history, just completely over. I paused and turned back to face him one final time. This family ended the moment Amanda decided violence was an acceptable response to not getting her way. This family ended when you and Mom decided my property was yours to distribute. This family ended when all of you confused love with ownership and control. I got into Sarah's car and drove away, watching the house, and my toxic family, recede in the rearview mirror for the last time. The crushing weight that had pressed on my chest for weeks, for years really, began to lift significantly. For the first time since the assault, I took a full, deep breath of genuine freedom. 8 months later, I stood in front of a classroom of ambitious young women at the Women's Entrepreneurship Center, where I volunteered teaching a comprehensive course on financial independence and business protection. The scars on my face and neck had faded to barely visible white lines, but the powerful lessons from that painful chapter remained vivid and transformative. Boundaries aren't just emotional concepts, I explained to the attentive faces before me. They're financial, legal, and professional too. No one, not a partner, not a friend, not even family, has the right to your resources, your business, or your success without your explicit consent. After class, I met Sarah and our new friend Maria for dinner. Maria was a talented graphic designer I'd met through the center, and over the past several months, she'd become an important part of my carefully rebuilt social circle, based on mutual respect rather than blood relations. "How did the session go today?" Sarah asked as we settled into our favorite restaurant. "Really well," I replied with genuine satisfaction. "It's incredibly healing. Honestly, turning that traumatic experience into something that might actually help other women protect themselves." "Have you heard anything from them recently?" Maria asked carefully, aware of my family history but respectful of boundaries. "My parents send occasional formal emails through their attorney," I said. "Very distant and legal. They're managing in the apartment, though Dad had to come out of retirement to cover basic living expenses. Amanda's criminal case is still moving through the court system slowly. Her lawyer keeps trying to delay proceedings, hoping I'll eventually drop the charges." "And how are you feeling about all of it now?" Sarah asked, a question Dr. Foster asked me regularly in our continuing therapy sessions. I considered the question thoughtfully, something I'd learned to do through months of professional counseling. "I still have occasional moments of doubt, brief periods where I wonder if I did the right thing. But then I remember that I didn't create this situation. I just refused to be its victim." Maria raised her glass with a smile, to boundaries, consequences, and new beginnings built on respect. As we clinked glasses together, I felt the last stubborn pieces of guilt and obligation finally release their hold on my conscience. Family should be about mutual support and genuine love, not exploitation and control. Relationships should lift you up and encourage your growth, not tear you down and demand your sacrifices. Sometimes the most difficult but necessary lessons come from those who should have protected and nurtured us most. But from those painful lessons can come incredible strength, clarity, and ultimately true freedom. I had lost the family I was born into, but that loss had opened space for something far more valuable. I was building relationships based on respect, boundaries, and genuine care rather than obligation and manipulation. My story wasn't over, it was just beginning, finally on my own terms with people who truly valued me. What about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members, cut ties with toxic relatives, or fight to protect your success from people who felt entitled to it? Share your experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found my story helpful and empowering. Subscribe for more content about family dynamics, business protection, and personal growth, and please share with anyone who might be struggling with similar situations. Remember, sometimes the healthiest family is the one you create for yourself based on mutual respect and genuine love. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength and wisdom on your own journey to healthy, supportive relationships.